I've started the spiritual part of yoga, the enlightenment meditation part of yoga when I was 13 or 14 years old. I was always a bit of a different kid, and I always had interest in Zen Buddhism and books like that. But I didn't start the downward dog kind of yoga until after I came back from Africa, having been gravely ill. I had appreciation for my life and my health. I came back to America, and I was about 24 years old, and that's when I started doing the kind of yoga that I do now.
Since you started practicing yoga, what's changed physically, mentally, and emotionally?
Since I started practicing yoga, really everything has changed. Physically speaking, I am much stronger than I've ever been. In fact, I get stronger every single day. People talk about aging and they talk about their body, in some ways becoming compromised over time, but I don't experience that. I experience that with my yoga practice. I get stronger and I feel healthier every single day. Mentally, I feel more clarity. I feel like I'm able to concentrate better. I feel like I'm able to connect with other people better. I feel like because I can keep my mind still, I'm able to listen and really communicate well and have harmony with my relationships to some degree. And then spiritually is, I think, where the biggest difference comes. Not everybody is inclined to the spiritual aspect of life, but if you are, then the yoga, like it has for me, it's very transformational. I kind of tend to experience divinity or as nature and God as nature, and I tend to see it everywhere. And so I kind of live with a spiritual awareness, and I think that that's a part from yoga for sure.
Could you explain what hot power vinyasa yoga is?
Sure. Hot power vinyasa yoga is power vinyasa yoga with heaters and with extra heat in the room. Now, power vinyasa yoga is a style of yoga that's very dynamic, and it has a lot of challenging poses, but it also has a lot of poses that relate to opening the body and preparing the body for meditation. So the Busch power yoga style is a comprehensive style where we're working on strength, we're also working on range of motion, we're working on the emotional and mental aspects of the benefits of becoming aware in our life, and also the spiritual components of meditation. We give a little bit of massage and trapezius and different kinds of ways to help people experience well-being in their life. And so that's power vinyasa yoga, and in the Busch style. Now you turn on the heat, and now you have hot power yoga. And a lot of people like that hot power yoga because it adds extra sweating and adds extra detoxification benefits. And so that's why you see that hot yoga and hot power yoga is very popular in the United States these days.
What features does it have?
Hot power vinyasa yoga has many features. In the Busch style, I tended to try to create the style of yoga that is comprehensive and has as many features as possible that bring benefits into people's daily life. So physically speaking, people are going to receive benefits like losing weight and getting better better circulation and feeling better, just overall more energy and that. So that's physical features, and then of course there's the features that relate to how do we teach people how to use awareness in their life to have a better life. Yoga is not about what we do on the mat. Yoga is about learning skills that we take off the mat outside of the studio, and then we learn them so that we have a higher quality of life. Yoga is about quality of our daily life. It's not about getting our leg behind our head. So the Busch hot power yoga features what I consider to be all of the most important aspects of different styles of yoga put together into one experience that's very comprehensive and very beneficial for every dimension of the person.
Anyone can practice it?
Anyone can practice yoga, anyone can practice power yoga, and anyone can practice hot power yoga. But you want to have a good teacher. If you have special needs or special circumstances, you want to just make sure that the teacher understands anatomy. This is how we train our teachers specifically, to make sure that they can handle different types of people. But the fact of the matter is yoga is for everybody. In fact, my first yoga teacher was 88 years old, and she started doing yoga when she was 80. So there's really no limit to when we can start yoga. When it comes to the hot power vinyasa style, there's a bit of dynamic stuff, there's some push-ups. So it's nice to have a teacher who understands how to help you adapt it to make it a little bit less challenging at first as you build your strength and as you build your endurance over time. But without a doubt, yoga benefits everybody no matter what age you start at.
You said about this, but I ask again if you agree that. Which are its benefits?
There are so many benefits to hot power vinyasa yoga. If we look around the world and we look around daily life, we see people have anxiety, we see people have obesity, we see people with physical issues, and we see people with mental issues, and we see people also with spiritual vacancy in their life. And what yoga does, especially our style of yoga does, is it kind of brings benefits to every dimension of the person's body and their being, because we're more than our bodies. But from a physical perspective, there's a lot of benefits that can come from practicing yoga every day, because exercise in and of itself is of the highest value. In fact, taking any days off of exercise is not really a good idea from a physiological perspective due to the circulation and the immune system effects that exercise has. So if you just look at the physical benefits of exercise and losing weight and increasing circulation and feeling well-being, power, energy, animos, and this is what happens when you start to feel the benefits of yoga physically. But each benefit gets more subtle. So when we come to mental benefits, we're talking about how the mind interrelates to its environment. And when you recognize that that's actually creating your reality, you can start to realize, you know what, I don't have to see that as a problem. I can see that as an opportunity. I can see that, hey, that door closed, but what door opened? So these are skills that we learn in yoga. We learn that there's no coincidences. We learn that there's no victims. We learn that there's a lot of ways that we can experience well-being mentally as a result of awareness. And spiritually, like I was suggesting earlier, that's, I think, the most important benefit, because a lot of us feel anxiety due to a lack of connection to something greater than ourselves. And different religions have different takes on it, but yoga is not a religion. Yoga is just a way of living that makes any religion that you practice better. It teaches gratitude, teaches ways of experiencing life from a spiritual perspective, which in my opinion is really the only thing that is important in life.
I agree too. Could you tell us how a hot power vinyasa yoga class is?
A hot power vinyasa class starts with a little meditation. We teach you how to breathe. Then it goes through some warm-ups, push-ups, different things that build strength and build heat. Then we do a bunch of what are called standing poses, which are also heat builders and strength builders. Then we get on to kind of like the ground, and we maybe do some core work. We work with the abdominal muscles because we know that the abdominal muscles relate to willpower. So we do a lot of work with getting the core nice and strong. Sometimes we'll then do some really challenging stuff called arm balancing, like what's called crow pose, and these are things that look really crazy if you've never done yoga before. But when you start doing it, you realize, wait, I can do it, and it's fun. And then we do some sitting stuff, and we open our body up, and then usually it closes with like some stuff where we're lying on our back, opening maybe the hamstrings, and then ends with relaxation, and then ends with a deeper meditation. So that we can really experience who we really are, which as far as yoga is concerned, is not your body, and it's not your thinking mind, and it's not your car, it's not the amount of money in your bank. Yoga teaches us to identify with that which is greater than ourselves.
You are considered one of the best instructor and trainer of trainer in the world. What is it that distinguishes you?
I think if anything would distinguish me from other people that are training teachers around the world, it's that I try to be the best student throughout my life, and have tried to study with the best teachers, and really only study with masters. And I've had a lot of exposure to masters. And so I bring a level of experience with masters that a lot of other people probably cannot bring to the table. And my intention with training teachers is to kind of synthesize as best I can everything that I've taken from so many masters who I would kiss their feet in a moment. These are people that I truly love, that are just, and so generous with their teachings. And I try to bring it all together into the context of the modern world. I also emphasize a lot of anatomy, a lot of safety, a lot of spirituality and meditation, and just making sure that the students understand how to teach everybody individually, how to make sure that everyone's taken care of individually. Because yoga, at the end of the day, is not designed for everyone to have to do the same thing, because we're really all kind of different. And so the ability to be able to teach students how to analyze their own future students, to make sure that what they're doing is safe and smart and in their best interest in the long term, those are my intentions, and I think that may be one of the reasons why people appreciate my training.
You are the creator of Healing Therapy Yoga Sequence. Could you explain us what is and which are the effects in those who practice it?
Yeah, I created something called healing sequences for power yoga as a result of when I was, and still am of course, practicing yoga, but this is 15 years ago. I was practicing yoga and I had some injuries. And I got some injuries, and my teachers were telling me, oh, keep pushing it, keep doing it, and it's going to feel better one day. And I was doing that. I kept doing what they said, and I noticed that my injuries were getting worse. At the same time, I was studying another training of nature and healing, and I was saying, hey, the body's going to always heal itself. Well, I'm thinking, well, why, if the body always heals itself, according to these guys, is it not happening over here? So then I started to take the information I was learning over here and apply it to yoga. And I said, okay, I need to create an environment to allow this to heal. So I changed some poses. I took some poses out that were in my sequence. I replaced them with other ones that were more valuable to me, that didn't aggravate my injury. And I noticed immediately I started to heal fast. So I realized, hey, I figured something out, that a lot of yogis hadn't figured out, which is that you don't want to quit yoga. You don't want to take 3 weeks off and hope it heals, but you also don't want to push through it and pretend that it's not there. There's actually a better way, and the way is to practice every day. Make sure that you're practicing every day your yoga, but you're not doing certain things that aggravate the specific injury, the specific region that you're looking to heal. So that's what healing sequencing is, and what I've found is that a lot of students really appreciate the ability to work on stuff that's more important as a result of their injury. So I tell them, oh, your arm is injured. Okay, great. That gives us a chance to work on your core. Okay, when one door closes, another door opens. And so we use the injuries as opportunities. We use them as gifts to allow students to work on other things in their practice that they need to. And then at the end of the day, it all comes together. So that's what the healing sequencing is. And it's extremely unique to our teacher trainings, because I created it as a result of the culmination of my studies.
How did your life and your practice change after what happened in Africa in 1998?
When I was traveling, I got sick in Africa, and everything changed, because before that I was what I call kind of a regular American guy. I mean, not too regular, because there weren't too many Americans traveling alone in Africa with a backpack. I was the only one I met doing that, but regular meaning I ate regular food, I was smoking cigarettes at the time, I was taking my health for granted, really. I mean, I was enjoying my life, and I was, traveling and all that, and doing my best. When I got sick and almost died, and I had a near-death experience, I prayed to God. And I said, God, if you give me my health again, I'm not going to waste it. Not again. So I went back to Miami, and yes, thanks to God and some modern medical doctors at the time, I had a parasite, and the parasite was able to be killed, and I got to keep living as a result of that. I've never forgot how meaningful it is to be healthy. And so that vision, informs everything that I do. Informs how I practice, informs how I teach. It's really changed me completely.
In which cities do you do your teacher trainings, and which are the activities that you do in those events?
I do teacher trainings all over the world. I've previously done trainings in Europe, in London, and different places around there, but now I focus in South America. My base is in Miami, so I do trainings in Miami several times a year. I also own a retreat center in Colorado in the United States, so those are my two bases in the United States, Colorado and Miami. And in South America, I've been going to Lima for over 10 years, so I consider Lima to be almost the second home of mine. I've also been going to Bogota for over 5 or 6 years in a row now, so I go to Colombia every year, Peru every year. Here I'm in Buenos Aires, and now we're starting to come to Argentina every single year. In Argentina, I work with great masters in different locations, and here in Argentina, I'm very lucky to work with Luana Javier, the author of Luana Living, and the director of her own international television show. I go to Aruba, Ecuador, Panama. I do my best to go to as many countries in South America as possible.
Well, the last. Why do you think yoga is important for our relationship with the world around us?
I think yoga is important to the relationship to the world, between people and the world, because nature can handle itself. Nature doesn't need our help. What nature really needs is to be left alone. And the way that we are interrelating to nature as human beings is one that's not ideal. We are involved with food industries that are damaging nature. We're involved in commercials. We're not doing our best jobs at stewarding the earth. And it's a result of unconsciousness. So it's a result of us not being aware of the sacredness of all of life, that everything is divinity in everyone. And so yoga really changes our attitude and our perspective and our understanding of where we are and who we are and how to relate to the world. And so for me, yoga creates awareness, and the awareness then creates a capacity for more compassion. And that, at the end of the day, is going to change everything, because how we treat ourselves when we as humans are sick physically, we're going to also not be well mentally. When we're not well mentally, it's going to affect how we relate to everybody else, whether there's more violence or less violence, more aggression or less aggression. This is all related to how we're eating. It's all related to whether we're exercising or not. So the more yoga helps us take care of ourselves and helps us feel better and helps us feel well-being, it's kind of like a stone in a lake, and the reverberations just start to manifest. And so that's how I see yoga. I see yoga that we're planting seeds for creating well-being in every single person, and that they also are planting those seeds, and then we see the world become a better place.
In one sentence, how does yoga mean to you? In one sentence, it's difficult. All in French.
Yoga, to me, yoga means awareness. It means consciousness. It means utilizing those two things to make daily life better for everyone. Most of the reason why we're suffering is because we're living in patterns and we're not conscious of our own minds, and we don't realize that we're being our own worst enemy instead of our own best friends. This is all about awareness. It's not about, it's not about changing who you are or having to be different. It's about being aware that there are mechanisms in our minds that are holding us back from experiencing peace. So for me, yoga is all of the tools that help us kind of unravel the different dimensions of who we're not so that we can see and experience who we are. And who we are is divinity, and what we are is immortal. And what we can be as a result of that realization is fearless. And that's how I see it.
Wow, beautiful.
Good?
Yes.
Perfect. The yoga practice has to serve us in our regular life, and the way that we do that is we first live it, and we experience it, and then we're able to express it. And so these teachers training programs are really designed to train people into becoming real yogis, in which case then it's natural for them to teach yoga.